Hey everybody, this is Dan, the real estate man, putting the real back in real estate, Mr. Multifamily Conversion himself. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, did something fun. Apologize for coming on a little late. The spring break kind of threw me off. Day was totally different. I forgot it was Monday, but happy to be here. I have a great guest that I'm going to be bringing on soon. Want to let everybody know too that I upload all of the Money Monday interviews up to my YouTube page. So you can go back, you can watch all the past interviews. We talked about everything from hard money to private money to investing, buying businesses. We've talked about almost everything money. So at your leisure, you can click the link in my bio, and for free, you can watch all of the past Money Monday interviews that I have done. This guest that I'm about to bring up actually was just a panelist at my Bragg event. If you're not a member of Bragg, it's the Black Real Estate Alliance Group. You guys can check out at Bragg Investors. Did a fantastic job. Met this guy just by accident with our kids while we were both teaching our kids how to swim. I didn't realize that he was in real estate at the time, but I watched him grow from real estate agent to buying and flipping properties to now owning multifamily properties and also being a contractor and a real estate broker as well with a great real estate team. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring up Anthony Lee. Talk to him about some Money Monday conversations.
Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. I hate when it does this. It's weird. But you can see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah, that's super weird. This every once in a while, this happens, and then when 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 I watch the replay, I'll be able to see us both. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, during these, every once in a while, it just won't show the person. So I don't know why it does that. But no matter, I can hear you good. Listen, bro, I definitely apologize. I totally spaced out on this, man. Just the day was off, the kids are
Every
off. It just didn't feel like a regular
Monday.
Monday. Yeah, man. But thanks for hitting me up. How's things going?
All is well. Same. I was managing one kid's off, one's not off till later in the week. So, trying to multitask and get some stuff done. But
Yeah,
all is well, though. Glad to be here, though.
yeah, man. And I'm glad you're here. I was just telling the folks that you were a panelist at this last week's Bragg meeting, man, and you did a fantastic job. I think mostly because you have a perspective that's well-rounded, right? Because you've been an agent for a long time, so you understand real estate from the agent side. You've been investing, and you're also a general contractor. So you have a lot of kind of hats. You can see things from a lot of different viewpoints. I think.
Thank you. Yes, I've, definitely not been scared to try my hands in
Mhm.
different things. And I tell people I use my real estate license to open up most of those doors. Like my
Mhm.
goal is always to be a real estate investor, but that takes time, and we didn't have the Bragg group when I first started, so I was figuring it out, trial and error.
Mhm.
Get my real estate license is kind of what got me in certain rooms to learn and get me along the way. Meanwhile, I still was able to provide for my family with the real
Mhm.
estate. So, I always tell people like that was like a saving grace, or like really the thing that catapulted me to get to all these other things. And through my experiences, like, man, every time I realize like I don't got to pay this person to do it, I could go get my license. I get my general contractor's license. I could go do this. I could do that. And eventually, you know, you become the person. And for me, I'm more so about partnering. I don't want to do all the things. I just want to be able to control it so that, or be involved in it so that if anything happens, I always can turn it on and off. I never like to let somebody else dictate my future.
Yo, I'm the same way. That's that. That's one of the things that I'm super big on, man. And once you have that freedom, it's like you never want to go back, right? You never want somebody that is totally in control of your future. Like somebody was writing a post, I saw this earlier on Facebook, and they were talking about how when they had a W-2 job, that they thought that being an entrepreneur was so risky. And then once they became once they became a business owner, they realized that having the W-2 was the riskier position.
Too.
And it's kind of interesting because like I'm not anti W-2, right? I think W-2 jobs definitely play a part. But I think the risky part comes in when all of your income comes from one place,
Right.
and is dictated by somebody else.
Right.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
No, so I'm 100% in agreement with you. And I'm also a big person where I don't think I think you definitely need your W-2. I would say that at least in the beginning, right? Because you want to set the family up. But if that's your end all be all, and like your goal is to go to college or to get a second job, get another degree just to make an extra 10, 15 grand a year, is like, no, I don't think that's the solution. Like most of the time you end up doing that and you end up in the same position, or you end up, you basically don't end up trying to get to where you thought you were going to because it was an illusion or it was a false narrative that was provided to you. So for sure, 100%, being able to have something else that you could do at your leisure that you can turn on and off. Like you said, you're with the kids today. You can't, just because like, yo, boss, my kids got spring break. I'm not coming in today. I don't have no babysitter. Like, nah, like,
Yeah, like that's your problem.
right. You
Yeah,
can't put a price on that.
yeah. I think the big. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and even if you do have the 9 to 5, being able to be okay with like, yo, boss, I won't be in today. Go ahead and dock my pay because I did A, B, and C over the weekend anyway. I already made my money for Monday, and I can afford to do that. And I won't skip a beat because I have this other skill set, whatever that skill set may be.
Yeah, I think where the issue comes in when it comes to having a W-2 job is when you get comfortable in it and you're not creating income outside of that job. There is no investment outside of that job. And so what happens is they know that they have you. Like they know that they got you. And honestly, I think some of the people that are the most trapped are the ones that make the most income, right? Because I always say, like, if you're making, I don't know, call it 50, 60, $70,000, right? You even if you lost that job, you can kind of get two okay jobs for a while and just kind of
Make it.
Like you can make it, right? You can maintain. If you're making $300,000 a year and you lose that job and you don't have any income coming in from anywhere else, there are no outside investments. Generally speaking, it's not like you're getting another $300,000 job the next day or the next month even, or even the next couple of months,
Right.
possibly. And so that's where people get stuck because they build that lifestyle around that high income, right? And those jobs know that, and so you become basically stuck. You can't do anything.
No, 100%. But I think anybody in, like you said, like regardless of the price point, that the main thing that I got from that with you is that lifestyle creep. Every time a salary raise, and I mean, like I said, I'm guilty of it. I make a couple of houses, I do something, and it's like, oh, I done moved on up. I'm at the next level. thing you know,
Yeah.
that car sale, that, that trip, that whatever it is. And like you said, you never really put that money to work. And I think that's, again, me being a real estate agent, being in rooms, hanging around certain people, I'm not going to lie. When I first got in the game, that term, put your money to work,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't make sense. Like, you hear it, but I didn't really understand it. And I wasn't, and I actually, until I had kids, I realized, like, oh, this is what they mean. Like, I need to be at swimming classes with my kids, but I still need to be making money while I'm at swimming classes or while I'm at basketball, so that I can afford to do these things and not have to worry about where our next meal is coming from or where our next, the money is going to come to replace whatever we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, and I think ultimately, for me, I mean, I got into real estate because I wanted to make money. But what I've come to value most is the freedom, right? So I've been going from SEPTA for 9 years, so this would be my 10th
Salute,
year.
salute.
Huh?
I said salute.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, this would be my 10th year, man. That's 10 years of not having to call off, 10 years of not having to act like I'm sick, 10 years of basically doing what I want and when I want to do it. And that's within reason. But that's what it's been. So I'm like, I always hope that everybody, at least once in their life, get to have that feeling of, hey, I don't want to do anything today, or I want to just spend a day with my family, and they can go ahead and do that,
Right.
because I think that's a great feeling. One of the things that I saw that you did that I was super impressed with, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this, was during COVID. Obviously, COVID was a crazy time. A lot of panic in the real estate business, which I guess that seems to be the only mode in real estate is panic or joy. Like, I feel like there's no in between.
Happy meeting.
Um, you you did something really cool, man, and I saw the growth of it, and I was like, wow, this is so genius. You created this whole interview series that really grew into a thing. Like, what motivated you to do that when everybody else seemed to be freaking out?
So honestly, it was the fear that made me do it. In order to calm myself, that was the way I connect with people still, and still feel like I was a part of the world. In addition to, again, us being entrepreneurs, my business relies on me being relevant, me building relationships. So I had to think outside the box, and say, and I forget what I was watching, but something I was listening to on YouTube, some podcast, something I was watching, and it was like, yo, whatever you do, do it the same day every day, or whatever day you pick, so that people always know. And when you think about it, I don't know if you watch TV at all, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
So I bet you if I name it Abbott Elementary, what day of the week it come on?
Oh yeah. Well, I always watch things streaming. So
All right, so like most people know,
yeah.
this show comes on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So
Mm-hmm.
like I had to pick a day, like, all right, I don't gotta compete with this. And honestly, I looked at the rotation during the week because everybody was flooding the pandemic with
Mm-hmm.
because they were selling stuff. So I'm like, yo, what day do this person go on? What day do that person go on? And let this be the day. This gonna be Aunt Lee's day. It's the
Mm-hmm.
8th day. And I just tried to be really consistent. And like you said, it kind of took off on its own. Not kind of, but it took off on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to where if I didn't do it, people was hitting me up like, yo, it was today's Thursday. Where you at? I'm
Yeah.
like, I needed a break. Because like you said, I really did that for almost 2 years straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so that really, like I said, it really came from the fear.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. I didn't know what the pandemic was going to do. So I said, regardless, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm really just going to go with a fight. And my
Mm-hmm.
fight is going to be Thursday night.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the difference between winners and losers. I know some people hate to hear this, but everybody faces fear. Like this idea of like people say, "Oh, I'm never afraid." It's like, are you insane? It's like if you're not afraid, you're stupid, or something's wrong with you. Because I mean, fear actually keeps you safe. It's what keeps you from walking onto a highway or
Right.
running up on a lion or something like that. Is fear. And I think fear is a signal too, right? Fear tells you something. It gets you into that fight or flight, right? I think it heightens all of your senses. So, but some people have that fear and they allow that fear to just overwhelm them,
Right.
and they like either get under their covers and just don't get out, or they just don't do they just don't do anything. I mean, what is it? What do you think it was about you that made you not allow the fear to just overcome you?
I mean, again, if I'm being honest, the fear was so strong for me that it forced me to make a move. So
Mm-hmm.
like I kind of wired, I would say a little different where like if I get too scared or if I get too nervous about something, like I gotta prove it to myself that I could fight through it. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
the blocks or challenges with myself. And then
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, honestly, I had these conversations with my kids and my kids give me feedback and they'll be like, yo, but dad, you tell us all the time you can't be scared, or dad, you tell us to step up and we're not taking no shorts.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being that I honestly got to go back and tell my kids like, yeah, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. That alone is what motivates me to not make not to make as many excuses, because sometimes I still have moments where I fall short, but not to
Sure.
fall too short, because I got to go to the kids and be like, yeah, son, I ain't do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, because I do agree. I mean, we want to be role models for our kids, right? And um, sometimes just trying and seeing how things work out, you know, gives them the courage. Like, hey, listen, like this thing didn't, exactly go how I thought it was going to go, but at least I gave it a shot. Right.
Right.
There's so many people that just never even try. Like they take themselves out of the game even before they they give it a real shot. They either talk themselves out of it or they allow other people to talk them out of it. And so for me, it's like, hey, I at least want for some of this is for my kids, and a piece of it is just like you said, it's just for myself. It's like, yo, I'm not going out like that, right? Like, I mean, I tell people all the time, like my biggest fear, if you'd asked me like say 8 years ago, my biggest fear was speaking in front of groups. Biggest fear. I would have rather swam in the ocean, and I can't really swim. But I had all these opportunities that was coming at me. And I was like, yo, this is ridiculous, right? I'm allowing this fear to just keep me stuck. I said, you know what? I said, F it. I said, I don't care what the next thing is. Somebody asked me to speak at, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it afraid. And I did. I was scared as shit, but I did it anyway.
Right.
And eventually what happens is, and I forget who said this, it says that you don't necessarily get stronger. Is this just that you get braver. You just become, or you don't get less scared. You just become more brave. I'm probably butchering that a bit, but that's the idea. It's just like you get more brave by putting yourself out there, by facing your fears. Our minds tell us all sorts of crazy things because that's how it's made up, right? It want to protect it. It wants to protect us, and it tells us all sorts of wild things that almost never really happens.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? So when you became a real estate agent, was it with the idea of investing, or as you were doing the real estate agent thing, you were like, hey, I can get inside, I can get into this investing thing as well.
No, so honestly, I got my license because I tried to initially wholesale. I said, you get see those courses, you go to these events, they tell you about wholesaling. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that so I can become an investor.
Mm-hmm.
Wholesaling didn't work out for me. I was trash. I was horrible. I wasn't spending the money, and then the leads I did get, the appointments never went well. So I eventually went to something else, and I talked to a friend. It was like, yo, you should get your license.
Mm-hmm.
Selling things sound kind of shady anyway. But of course, I just graduated college, and I'm like, I don't want anything else I got to do that I got to go back to school. But no, I know now, anything you want to do that's going to elevate you, there's going to be some type of training, some type of education you're going to have to complete in order to separate yourself from the people who fly under the radar versus the people that can press forward and command their value because they have these credentials. So me and my license was always to be an investor, but the license thing honestly took over because the first time I tried to get my license, I got laid off from my job. Again, somebody dictating my future. So after I got laid off, I said, bet I could collect this unemployment, go to real estate school. That's what I did. But in the midst of that, real estate sales wasn't enough money for me to really live off and eat in the beginning. So I had to find a job. I was doing social work. And I did that for about 2 years until, again, I got enough courage where it was to the point where I was crying that I didn't want to go to work. And I quit. And I just went full throttle. So since 2016, I've been full time. And since 2016, I've been buying at least 2 to 3 houses a year.
Nice.
Except for this year. This year will be the first year I think I'm only buying this one until I figure out, and clean some stuff up so that I could do my next play. But
Got you.
But the real estate license was my cheat code to most of my education on the real estate investment side.
So what was that transition like getting into investing from the real estate agent side? Did you start flipping? Were they rentals or what? Or what did that look like?
So I did buy and hold. I did buy and hold. I did a little bit of the burr. I just didn't know the power of the burr at the time because I was figuring it out and bumping my head. So those first situations I did, because I was a real estate agent, I met some other investors. They also were some hard money lenders at the time. Not the best hard money lenders, knowing what I know now as well. But they were the ones who took a chance on me where they were funding me 100% of the deals in order for me to buy the properties. And at the time, to your point, not having the W-2 was my hiccup and hurdle because I wasn't able to do the refis with the burn. I got stuck in them properties for 2 years when I first got into that mix. But that transition, I would say, was easy but challenging because I didn't have all the information to really, again, pump it. But it was easy in the sense of I knew how to find properties because I was a real estate agent. I had access to the properties because I was a real estate agent. And then I had access to money because the relationships I built from being a real estate agent. It just was a matter really of being able to, what I was able to do during the pandemic was get the most bang for the buck for these relationships and opportunities through being an agent and, real estate investor.
Yeah. I'm often kind of shocked that more real estate agents are not investors, especially being around investors and seeing the growth and seeing the opportunities. What is it that you think holds some agents back from investing?
Oh, man, you sure you want to start this
Let's
conversation, Dan?
go. I'm curious.
All right, so I'm gonna just say my encounter with agents are that they don't invest or they don't invest enough, and on top of that, more than you would like to know, more of them don't own their own house. So like I struggle with, how do you provide a service that you haven't even utilized or you haven't even been through the process? And on the investment side, it's the discipline that you have to be able to do on the investment side, like keep your credit clean. But how do you keep your credit clean? You got to make enough money on the personal side with whatever you do in order to manage your personal credit. So that means you got to get out there and actually sell some houses. You ain't selling not getting no income. Or to your point, you got a 9 to 5 and you complacent with that 9 to 5, not utilizing the extra money you make as a real estate agent to put that into real estate investing. But for me, again, my focal point, I feel like, was never just be the top producing agent. That just happened because I was just hungry. That was just what I was using, and I happened to be good at it. But again, that competition for me really kicked in. I hang out with certain people, whether it's you, Lorenzo, Dwayne, KR, and you hang around these people and ain't nobody celebrating how many houses they sold. They celebrating how many houses they bought, how many houses they flipped. And honestly, the biggest ticker for me was I helped these dudes buy like 5 houses in 3 months, and then they flipped all of them in like a 7-8 month span. And I think the smallest check was 30-40 grand. And every time I went to the table and I helped them sell that house, and I got my 3 grand check, my 4 grand check, whoop-de-doo, I was looking like, yo, this shit is backwards. I'm on the wrong side of the check. But I used that really as my learning curve to see what they was doing and not doing for me to eventually get in the mix. And then down the road, I started flipping.
Gotcha. So are you still primarily doing rentals, or are you doing flips as well?
Honestly, I would like to do a flip. I just don't. I guess I'm not patient enough with this market. But overall, right now, my focus has been really like the last, I would say, 2 years, strictly just buy and hold. And right now, my goal is really to do more buy and hold, but do it on a larger scale. So yeah, that's my thing. Like I said, I'm working on one project now that I'm finishing up. Ellen and I have been kicking my butt since November. I'm getting ready to be out of that situation, Lord willing. And once I'm done that, I'll stabilize that property and it's back to the drawing board to like really, again, sacrifice, lock in, and put the pieces together to move on to, bigger multifamily deals.
I see. So you want to move into larger multifamily projects?
Yeah. So
Is you saying?
yeah. So like during the pandemic, again, you helped me, give me advice, and I took on a 6-unit property. And that property to me it's like my gift and curse. It's like one of my best properties, and in the same token is one of my, because it was a property I did without the full knowledge of multifamily investing. So I made mistakes. I look back like I should have did this different, should have did that, but at the same token, it's a good position that I'm in, and now it's like the next one I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that better than I did the first one.
Sure. So what are some things, if you don't mind, like what are some things do you think that you, or what's some things that you would do differently next time?
So one, I wouldn't do multiple projects at the same time. So when I bought that 6-unit, I was working on a full renovation duplex, and I was working single family properties all at the same time. So I wouldn't do that again. I probably would try to be maybe the 6-unit and maybe one other property, but not all of those 10 units at once. And then outside of that, I probably would do a little more deeper renovation. My guy KR, my guy Dwayne at the time was like, yo, you could do just enough. And I did just enough because I get through the renovations faster. But in the long term, for me, I don't like this weekend, I had a heater issue, $850. 1 week, first of the month. Like nobody wants to pay that money. So just those miscellaneous repairs or issues that come up once the building is, settled and you got people wearing and tear. I really rather just do the stuff the first time brand new and get a couple years of, minor maintenance issues, not bigger maintenance issues.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest trade-offs. I mean, for years, all I did was full rehabs, right? Build outs. And you just have less maintenance, CapEx issues, right? Which is like major, which are capital expenses, like major expenses. So like heaters, a roof, plumbing. Um, Now, since the market's changed, I've been buying existing buildings from landlords that want to get out quickly
Right.
and have not been doing full gut rehabs. Um, and so I will say it hasn't been horrible, but you do have more issues because I didn't replace all the plumbing. I didn't replace all of the wire. So yeah, so we, maybe did a brand new roof and new kitchen and flooring, but you are going to have some more issues. And the capital costs are a little harder to kind of figure out because when I was building those properties out brand new, it's one of the things that I loved about it is knowing, for the next 10 years, 20 years, I'm going to have major issues, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a trade-off, but the market shifted, which is why I shifted my strategy. Has your strategy shifted any since interest rates have gone up?
It has. So again, to your point, so like large multifamily, I feel like I have to do more heavier rehabs, but if I'm doing single families, I'm not fully gutting those. The wear and tear isn't as bad.
Mm,
Um, so like if I'm doing those, like I don't have to fully gut a single family house.
mm,
And I can pretty much get in and out. Like my strategy with this the market change, I like to be in a single family like anywhere from like 100K to 120. Because
mm,
I'm going to appraise at 200K and I'm a cash flow and get all my money back out.
mm,
So like one of those last year, and it was like, oh, if I could find 5 more of these, I'm straight. Cash flow
mm,
400 a month, refi all your money back out, might even get a little extra money on top, just a little bit, not the big bag you used to get, but just a little bit. But some
mm,
of those deals are, again, they're like few, at least for me, they've been few and far in between.
mm,
But also, like I said, that's just been the, like, all right, I'm just like, now it's time to just be patient. Like, yo, no more of that stuff. Just wait, get your team together, get your resources together, and it's time to go ahead and mess with the big boys. And then, Dan, one more thing I forgot to say. In regards to the agents, the other thing what I'll say, the reason why they're not buying investment properties, because not a lot, let me not say that, I'm sorry. Some agents, rather, are scared to ask for help. And
mm,
because some agents have this facade of being the mega or super agent,
mm,
help makes them vulnerable and they don't want to ask for help.
dang. So their ego is keeping them from actually investing.
I would say yes. And I mean, depending on what brokers you're at, they're honestly, they don't talk about the investing. They talk about
Really?
no, they talk about investing, but it's not like real investing. It's not, they might talk about some stock share in the company or I don't know, some agent recruitment type stuff, but they don't talk about
Mm,
taking you on property tours, where the hard money is at, and fix and flip. They don't want to teach you that because eventually you're not gonna sell no fucking houses no more. You just gonna want to do investments. So
wow.
they don't want
It
that.
it seems like to me such a no-brainer because I feel like you would just do both, right? I mean, I think as a real estate investor, you should still have some sort of active income on, right? If there's one thing that I would say that, and I very rarely am like I would do this differently. It's one thing I would have done differently. And my arc of being in this business is I would have created some piece of the business that was more in that created income outside of the real estate. And really, COVID.
Day to day money.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, COVID really put me onto that. I mean, COVID opened up my eyes. We had so many good years, and
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before. You're making so much money. Like it's hard for people to understand. You're making so much money that you're like, fuck it, I don't need it, Jane. I don't need to. Right? I'm making more money on refi cash outs than I can make. I mean, you know what I mean? 6-figure refi cash outs, like multiple 6-figure refi cash outs on one building. It's like what do I need to do? But I realize now that it was short sighted. right? And it is cyclical. It's cyclical. And so I do think you need that thing, whatever it is. And so now I'm starting some other businesses. But I'm realizing, yes, you need that in the background, kind of churning away, to help feed everything else. And it helps you get through some rough spots in real estate because it's not going to always be sweet.
Right. So the thing, like you said, for COVID or just as I'm getting older, I realized the corner store is a cash cow. And if you take the corner store, the laundromat mentality, like you said, the day-to-day money and whatever business you're going to do, that's really, like you said, what you're supposed to live off of. And then this investment money is the money that you basically know, like, yo, when I'm ready to roll from this job, I can roll and be at peace. Or when I'm ready to bust out and act the fool, I got this money sitting in the tuck.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of hard to really, like you said, maintain and do that when you like, yo, I'm just as good as my last flip, or I'm just as good as the last house I sold. And again, on the agent side, you're setting yourself up for frustration and failure. Where I talk to agents and they like, yo, I got to go back and get a job after they was rolling crazy during the pandemic, because everybody was selling houses during the pandemic. Now you actually need clientele and a skill set, but it's really a thing like, all right, I need to really position myself. I really need to figure out what's the other thing that I do that makes money. And I mean, again, for me is I don't necessarily have to be the thing. I'll partner, I'll collaborate, and we'll figure out how we could get money together. Even if I only make $100 off of something, but I did that and you made your 200, I'm happy. I'll take that day-to-day money that way.
Yeah, because it all adds up, right? I mean, definitely all adds up. And honestly, I think it opens up new and different opportunities. I mean, for me starting off, not even starting off, I mean, up until just a few years ago, I mean, my strategy was to find projects that needed a lot of work, and then I would convert those projects. I mean, these are multiple six-figure rehabs. It takes a lot of work, a lot of energy. Now you end up with a nice product at the end, hopefully, and you gain a lot of equity. But there's another investment strategy, which, quite frankly, is a lot less of it's it's a lot less heavy lifting, and it's a lot less brain damage, which is you could just earn a lot of money and you can invest the difference into a nice piece of property, which means you don't have to necessarily go into the hood. Now there's some advantages there if the neighborhood is growing. But the one thing I don't think people really talk about is the management piece of buying properties in the hood, right? Yes, you can create value, but the management can be a pain. And I see your post. Your post is wild to me. Your posts are wild. And I don't deal directly with my tenants, but still, I'm like, you know what? I don't think that this is how I want to continue to build my portfolio.
Right.
I mean, have you given that any thought at all?
I mean, damn, Dan, I feel like you about to turn into my therapist on this live, because these are really the conversations that I do have. So yeah. So one of the tweaks I've made to avoid some of the issues that I have, or the conversations that you guys see me posting, I deal with programs now. So properties, I guess we'll say, because of the locations, it attracts the people. But at the same time, like you said, like, our people just really got a lot of confusion, a lot of bad information, and the way they live with this bad information as the landlord or the property manager, you witness it or have to work through it with them. Almost like they're an extended family member or another. I'll call them a family member because they're in the Dells.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's challenging, and as much as I want to leave I'll just say the city or the community that I'm most familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
the challenge, being honest, is then how the fuck do I afford to go to some of the other areas and do the same thing I'm doing?
Well, yeah, the thing is, I don't know if you do the same thing that you're doing, right? I mean, strategy wise, it's a different strategy, right? It's a different process. So, you know, I'm looking for, I would say I would be looking for, I'm not looking to do a burr in those areas. That's not even the idea.
Okay.
The idea is I'm making my money in these other businesses, take that money and invest in better neighborhoods where you just get a better quality tenant. I know some people are going to feel however they feel about it. I've lived this shit. So you can tell me how you feel about it, but it's a reality. And I'm not saying that there's no good tenants in those areas. That's not true. In that there's no problematic tenants in nicer areas, but it's way different, right? You get different income, you get a different kind of tenant. I have properties in those areas. It's the rent is on auto pay. you you never hear from them. It is a different thing. Credit is good, so they care about it. You know what I mean? They
Right.
don't want to be evicted. These are real things, right? This isn't a judgment of people. It's just a reality. So I mean, you can feel some way about it, but it's reality. And so it's like, well, how much of that shit do you want to actually do? And I sometimes when I'm working with people, and I understand because it's the low hanging fruit, and then people get very excited, and I'm curious about your opinion. People get very excited about Section 8, like it's the second coming, but it has some issues when you're dealing with these subsidies. I know you deal with other subsidies. I deal with a lot of other subsidies. You know, it comes with a lot more. It's a lot more management intensive. I mean, have you found that to be the
No,
case, or
so
what's your experience?
so that goes to, again, I don't know how to say it, but because of our community has, again, so much bad information, we're not just dealing with the tenant. We're dealing with, I'll use this as an example for people to understand. My tenant lived in my building, but my tenant was raised by another person who was also a professional tenant. And
Mm-hmm.
during they learned from their upbringing that it's okay to pay rent late. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to put the electric bill in the child's name. Um, it's okay to move people in the property that are not on a lease.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not saying the people are bad. Again, we're just saying that the people's training or the people what they think is acceptable is not the norm. It's not acceptable. And as a landlord, you get the good and the bad from that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing that you're late on your rent. We're not saying things don't happen. It's another thing when you play this game every 3 months just not to be evicted, or because you want to live a certain lifestyle so that Instagram and your followers think you really that person.
Sure. Yeah, I
But
mean, you know when what month is always the toughest month? I've noticed it's 2 months, but January
Thanksgiving.
and February. This is what I've
Okay.
found. Yeah, I found January and February. It's always after Christmas. And I've had people look me right in my face and say, well, I got to get my babies toys. I got to get my babies Christmas gifts. I mean, as if like that's a real, I mean, no sort of like what you're saying is ridiculous. Look you straight in your face and say, I got it.
But
Well, I got to get my kids gifts. Like an attitude with you. Like, how
no,
dare you? How dare you? How dare you question this? Like, at what point? Would you, and I understand the pressures. I understand our society. They put a ton of pressure on people. They put a ton of pressure on people. And then we put pressure onto ourselves. But the idea that you're going to risk your family being out on the street so they can have some gifts that they're going to play with for about 2 weeks and never play with again is wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. Yes, you can clip this, Alicia.
So,
But go ahead.
So I've heard. So to your point, you said January, February. For me, it starts from Thanksgiving till about February. And really, with my inexperience when I first got in the game with picking tenants, it was really consistent between October and February. Tax time, they would always get back. Certain ones would get back. Some of them would just leave by tax time because they would use that money and go move with new plates. But like you said, the mentality of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, or even just the priorities. But again, that's why I say it's the bad education or the lack of education that dealing with certain communities or certain properties and certain locations that you get. And like you said, they give you attitude and look at you like, yo, you crazy. So I would say in my last 3 years, I've been better where even my tenants from the programs, we have been able to set the standard and we've been able to form a middle ground of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Some tenants, they're going to push the envelope.
Sure.
But again, just being able to set those boundaries where, like, listen, I will have to start eviction, or I'm not going to lie, I'm also working on my growth as an adult. I ain't even tripping. I know something's bound to go wrong and you're going to call me and you're going to need me. I had a tenant not pay me on purpose, like literally on purpose, because they saw me at a networking event. And they like, yo, he got it. He good. We'll pay him when we pay him. I ain't even tripped. Water heater went out. I ain't answer the phone. It's got a text message. Water heater's out. I'm not responding. I got that rent 10 minutes later. Next phone.
But that's a shame. See, this is ridiculous, though, right? That's a ridiculous, thing. If number one, you're counting someone else's pocket. They have no idea what you've had to do to get to that get to that status, to buy those properties. And I think most people don't really understand like the work and the sacrifice that goes into it. And I don't want to get too far off topic, but I said this in the past, I'm sorry, I've been saying this recently, that this has been the worst applicants I've seen since I've been a landlord in 20 years. And and that's no exaggeration. It's no anything, like it's bad. And I'm like, how much of this is the remnants of COVID and all of these policies that was put forth, or is there something else going on with the economy? And I'm asking this seriously, is this going on, something else happening in the economy that I'm just not seeing? Because I'm seeing crazy evictions, bankruptcies, credit at a number I've never even seen before. I'm like 456 and 463. I'm like, God damn, you gotta try to work to get it that low.
Right. Nah. So it's funny. Like, so I was at a networking event last week talking with a banker, and he's like, yo, my business is really struggling because the banks aren't lending money right now. But he's like, when I'm talking to clients, he's like, everybody almost across the board, unless you're a certain level of business owner or legacy business, a lot of people are cash poor. That's why the banks aren't lending. So like on a high level, if the banks aren't lending, that's how like you said, on the low level, like I can give a little bit of sympathy in regards to people and their finances. But however, most of that, like you said, came from the pandemic, where a lot of people had false lifestyles because they had unemployment that they could tap into. They had these stipends from the government they could tap into. So it wasn't just one tax refund. They was getting hit every couple months with what felt like a tax refund.
Oh yeah.
And so
And the what was the big one? What was the big loan that everybody was getting? Some folks got locked up for later on. The
the
PPP.
PPP.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the
so let's
PPP, and they had the PUAs. Yeah.
PPP, PUA, unemployment, the SBA, all kind of stuff. So and then don't add in the mix. If you learn somewhat of a skill set, you could go on Instagram and make a bag and never leave your house. So
Mm-hmm.
so again, that's where again a lot of people got caught up, good, bad, or indifferent, and now you're seeing the results of once that money stopped. And I mean, even me and you just talked about it a little bit. Like money was flowing crazy during that time. So it's like then you realize like, oh, maybe I did need to have another day-to-day thing that I could just make $300 a day. Like if I make $300 a day consistently, we all right. But again,
Yep.
was propped up on that money, and then now you got to go to a job that was already just living paycheck to paycheck.
Hmm.
Eventually, luck is going to run out.
Yeah, and I think too during that period, it was a wild period, man. That was a wild time. It
I
was
ain't gonna lie.
like
If they gonna put Trump in office, I ain't gonna lie, Dan. I might go to jail this time.
why?
I might go for it all like everybody else did. I ain't gonna.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you qualify, then you
I might.
qualify. But I think
I might
what happened
my
was,
12 to 6 month probation because I'm filling out every application this time if they let it out.
hey man, yeah. You know what? I found out later on that there was I was so squeamish about it all. I found out later on that there was some programs that I really did qualify for that I didn't
Give
get,
me.
like like talking to other investors. They're like, yeah, man, I got 150 and blah blah blah. I'm like, dang, you know what
Right.
I mean?
So
I should
that's the
I
thing.
should
That's what I'm
I
saying.
should
Like, so
I should have grabbed that change, man.
I
I should
did
have
some
grabbed.
of those, but like you said, I was nervous, so I downplayed it. And I'm like, I took this little bit here, that little bit. That's
Mhm.
why I said next time, like you said, I'm not saying my name gonna be Maserati Ant, but just know I might have some red leather
They
next to
got
some
a ring
PP.
to it, man. Maserati, and I like that. Yeah, man. Again, I think that there was such a ridiculous idea too of of how people made money and how much money you can make. Which is why I actually have Money Mondays, man, is because just to get some fundamentals, man, because people was getting pulled into a bunch of scams, promising stuff that was like, like absolutely ridiculous. And just because they didn't really have a baseline understanding of economics, right? So if I'm telling you that you're going to make some crazy returns, like 20% a month, how? How in the world are you going to make 20% a month? Show me that, right? And if you're making that kind of money, why the hell are you on Instagram? Right? You need to be an oracle somewhere. But I think a lot of that comes from people just not having basic financial understanding. This is not like looking down on people. This is just the reality. Most people don't really understand, as wild as this is, as wild as this, as important as money is. Most people don't understand money. They don't understand how money is produced, how money should be used, how money should be invested. They just don't understand that whole process. So, talking about our community, especially, but I think a lot of people just in general don't understand money.
Nah, so again, yes, and then also, I mean, across the board, like you said, Dan, I mean, most of these schools, most of these, the way our parents were taught, the way we were taught, the game keeps changing, the rules keep changing, and if you're not educating yourself or in certain rooms, by the time you realize your $20 is now $50 to survive, you know, you behind the eight ball. So, you know, it's tough because they also don't want us to know these things. But that's where, again, like you said, it's good to have people like you and your leadership, because you're not scared to share this information. Now, whether people take advantage or not or pay attention to it, that's a whole nother story. But
It is. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing. And I think the other part is our our community and what most people feel like they're chasing. And I mean, I used to be guilty of it when I was younger. I talked about it during the panel event last week. Like, yo, I thought I was supposed to get money so I could have multiple cars and Gucci belts and all the latest sneakers. And you realize, like, man, that shit is some bullshit. Like, I don't want you what I look like, what kind of stuff I got on. I just want to be able to know, like, yo, if I reach my wallet, this card is not going to be declined. Or ain't nobody calling me telling me you 15 days past due for nothing. That's what it's all about.
I think, you know, a lot of it, some of it is not understand finances and money. A lot of it, and I will put this on a lot of men per se. I mean, I guess because I'm a man, I don't really know how women necessarily see this, but see this with a lot of men is really about self-confidence, right? Because a lot of dudes feel like if they don't got that on, then they're not worthy, right? They can't get the woman that they want. They can't get the respect that they want. You know, all these things, unless they have all these sort of trappings of I've made it. Like, I remember just being at SEPTA. I remember dudes would spend crazy money for cars and bottle service and all this stuff, and like not making that much money. It's like what are you doing? But it I guess it fills that void where they feel like they're not enough, man. So I think a lot of it comes down to people really not feeling like they are enough without all this stuff. And then you ultimately realize like a lot of that stuff don't matter, and really it is a conditioning to keep you broke and keep other people rich.
Right. Nah.
You know?
So 100%, Dan. And again, like I said, I got to be honest about what I thought. You know, again, the upbringing. You be at the barbershop, you see certain dudes with the Gucci belts, the Prada shoes, the leather jackets, all that cool stuff. You like, man, when I get on, that's what I'm at. I get the certain respect. I have the certain imagery. But once I got in the real estate side, I started realizing most of them dudes, them cars and them jackets, they live out the car. They are girls that I'm renting houses to or I'm selling houses to because they found out about the other girl that they messed with or that they got caught with at the bar, and now they can't get in the house.
Yeah.
So then again, you start realizing priorities, and again, what are you really doing it for? So, but luckily,
go ahead.
now I was just gonna say, luckily, because of my circle changed, I realized like a lot of the cats I roll with now, you never would know what they drive, what they own, where they live, because it's not for everybody.
For sure. Yeah, I was about to make a joke. I said I met a lot of fly girls sleeping on the floor or on them air beds. I done seen a lot of them, boy. If you saw them outside, Gucci'd up, the finest threads inside of that apartment is bare.
No, so it's funny, like it's bad to the point where like I will look at a girl's Instagram like picture, I look at the floor and I look at the baseboard. That's how I can tell whether you a homeowner, a tenant, and what level of homeowner or tenant are you. Do you got coaches? Do you have no trim at all? You got the landlord special, which your countertops look like. And again, these be the same folks that like I see them at events, but of course, again, I rent to them or I know people that rent to them and popping bottles on it. I promise you, one lady, she used to drive me up a wall, yo. And to your point about look you in the eye, I seen her on the gram. She was trending on the gram because she was on a boat at a boat party. the Philly dudes be throwing these boat parties in Miami's, and she was
Mm-hmm.
popping. Mind you, she 2 months behind on rent because that's where my rent money went so she could make it to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Every outfit, Fendi,
Yeah.
Gucci, Louis, I had to hit her like, yo, you know your rent pass due. She like, man, it was my birthday. I just been stressed. I needed
Mm-hmm.
to get my mental together. So this is how you got your mental together. So when you come home and the locks has changed, where are you gonna go? Back to
Yeah.
Miami?
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. But yeah, I mean that could be a whole other conversation for a long time. I mean, a lot of self-sabotaging things that people do that keeps them stuck, you know. And unfortunately, I do agree that, you know, a lot of times it is their environment. But ultimately, I mean, I'm of the opinion is like it's still your responsibility to find a way out of that, right? And I feel like there's enough information, right? We have a supercomputer in our hands, not even a computer anymore. Like I'm talking to you with a video and it can whatever, how many other people watch it. We got a supercomputer.
Right.
So I really, really find it lame, in my opinion. I'm not gonna get my bag, but I really find it lame when people try to say, well, they don't know. How?
No, so then I ain't gonna lie. I was waiting.
How is it possible?
I was waiting.
How is that even possible that you don't see other people not living that life and like being a little bit curious to say,
But that's what I was about to say. Then I was gonna let you finish. So only
yeah.
not saying they're oblivious to it, but when a certain thing is the norm and you're looking like if everybody else is doing this and it's just this one thing over here that nobody else is, it's kind of hard to pay attention to it. Like it's just human nature. If everybody is eating chicken and you gonna be the one vegan, like why are you a vegan? Like, you know, it's just like again, yeah, I feel like again your environment plays a big part. And to your
100%.
point though, we figured out that there was more to the other side. We figured out like, yo, there was other opportunity. Like again, not tooting our horn or putting anybody down, but just saying everybody, I guess, in time will that next thing will resonate to them and they'll push forward or they'll realize like, yo, I was chasing the wrong things. But
Hopefully so, bro. I know that we've been on for about an hour, man. I know you got the kiddos there, man. Can you just let everybody know like what you got going on and how they can work with you and you know all that good stuff?
so Dan, I appreciate you for having me. Always enjoy being in the mix with you and the Bragg family. Anybody wants to connect with me on social media, of course, A Lee Real Estate, Anthony Lee. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a message, and we can connect. We have a few events coming up. We're actually hosting an event on the zoning codes and permits,
Nice.
April 3rd, with Chatham Drafting. So he's an architect that's going to be speaking in our office April 3rd. So definitely if you want that information, reach out to me. But it's about to get warm. So I'm definitely, me and Lorenzo been connected and we working on some things to get everybody back in the mix.
Nice.
So definitely I'm looking forward to doing some stuff.
Nice.
So definitely just reach out to me, connect with me. It's still a good time to buy. So don't be looking at all that stuff on social media. When you work with the right people, you still get it done and we help you reach your goals. So, and any agents that's out there, Realty One Group, Focus Philly, the office created by the agents, ran by the agents, 100% commissions, minority owned. We here to help you learn and earn. That's the goal, learn and earn.
Nice, man. All great things going on. What I'll add to that is, yeah, if you guys are not following Bragg, if you're not members of Bragg, you definitely want to check out at Bragg Investors. Bragg stands for the Black Real Estate Alliance Group. We actually have a happy hour coming up April 25th that is sponsored by Spring Garden Lending. It's a great event. It's fun every year. There's a ton of people come out. It's just great vibes, right? Everybody come out, have some drinks, and just meet other like-minded people. Because like Anthony was saying, and almost every guest that I have that comes on here, it talks about mindset and how important that is, and getting around people that fit your future and not necessarily fit your past. Right. So if you guys want looking for a fun event, April 25th, we're going to have the Bragg Happy Hour. If you guys want to register for that, it's absolutely free. It's free. It's going to be, free drinks, food. So, you can't really miss April 25th, but you just have to register. So go over to @Bragg Investors and register there. Anthony, I really appreciate you coming out, man. I love everything that you have going on. Love the growth. And I'm sure that I'll be chopping it up with you soon.
Oh man, well you said free drinks, so we gonna get some Casamigos at the happy hour.
There you go, man. Look, see, there's some folks you just can't. Some folks you can't bring out. Casamigos. Sounds good, man. I'll wrap with you later on. All right.
My man, have a good one.
Thanks, man. Talk to you. Bye.